This ridiculous piece of proposed legislation is retired professor of political science and law from Vanderbilt University. She was also on the board of the 1776 Project during the Trump administration. Our good friend, Dr. Carol Swain. Hey, Doc, how are you?
I'm doing great. And you know, what's so interesting is that they want the U.S. government to address something that started at a time when there was no United States. And so 1619, we were a British colony. And the whole thing, like reparations for slavery, that's been talked about and really pursued since 1987. So it comes up every year. But because of the Biden administration's obsession with all things race and the fact that the left has gone, they've politicized America in such a way. Everything is systemic racism. Everything is white supremacy. Everything is white privilege. It may actually advance this time.
Wow. And that's scary. Something like this, though, they're going to have to get past the Senate unless they try to go back and reverse and do the nuclear vote. They'd have to get, I would assume, the 2/3 majority. That means they would need 17 Republicans to side with them on this bill to get it done.
There are plenty of nutty Republicans and Republicans that are easily intimidated. And you mentioned race, and they run for the hills because they don't want to be called racist. And what they don't realize is that if you're white, you're going to be called racist. And if you're a black conservative, you're going to be called a black white supremacist. And so they need to rediscover the principles that Republicans stand for. For the Democrats, they need to look at American principles and make that decision. But the thing about it is that no amount of compensation will ever be enough, because if you look at the period that followed the end of slavery, trillions of dollars have been spent. Some of it was private money, some of it was corporations, governmental money, money all over the place that's tried to address the past and present effects of discrimination. And if you look at the black colleges and universities, the schools that were set up across the South, there were always whites working alongside blacks to create opportunities for everyone. And so the problem with the slave reparations is that if you look at slavery, there were black slaveholders, there were Native American slaveholders, there were white slaveholders, and there's no living slaves or anyone that had a direct connection alive.
You said something there that helps me transition to my next line of questioning. You said something about black folks who are in the conservative movement like yourself and the names you get called. We know that you've been called everything under the sun, which is absolutely ridiculous. I read your posts. I've seen and read your papers. They are so non-controversial. But something just happened to you recently. I know you want to bring up, and I do as well, because it's not a social media platform we think of them going after conservatives, right? And suppressing them or suspending or deleting their accounts. But you had a little run-in with LinkedIn lately for a couple of your posts. I think we have some of the information here we can put up on the screen. Briefly describe what happened. You did 1 or 2 posts over the last month or so, and I guess LinkedIn smacked your hand. They didn't like what you had to say, Doc.
Well, over the weekend, I tried to log into LinkedIn, and they told me I needed to verify myself, submit my driver's license. I did. And then I realized they informed me that I was restricted because I had violated their community rules. And as I responded, they pointed to a post I made on January 21st where I commented, have you been following what's been happening in the states as far as investigations of the elections? So it was something I put up on my post. So that was one thing they cited. And then I did the unforgivable. I shared a link to Mike Lindell's investigation of voter and election fraud. And for those 2 reasons, both related to the election, that's why I was restricted. And so I appealed that process and pointed out, that I'm an award-winning political scientist. I care about, integrity and all of these things. And that the Supreme Court is yet to rule on, make a decision about those election cases. And that Mike Lindell's analysis, his major study that he invested so much money in, has not been proven to be false. There's no reason to believe it is false. And
Well,
I got to
but Doc, see that 19-year-old fact checker at LinkedIn, you startled him or her, and you got him scared and fearing for violence. Because anytime you use the word election integrity like you did in that post, just simply putting up the link to Mr. Lindell's program, Absolute Proof, which aired on this network, guess what? You can incite violence, because that happened to another guest of ours. They posted a link to Mike's show, and they said those words can incite violence. So just questioning an election now, moving forward in liberal year Biden 2021 rules are don't say election integrity or that there was election fraud or you're inciting violence, Doc. That's what they're claiming.
That was the line before the inauguration. But after the inauguration, impeachment over, I was surprised that they came after me at that point in time. And, like, as someone who has a platform, I'm expecting, like, if I run into trouble, it's going to be Twitter or Facebook. And, I don't try to be controversial, but I do try to get people to think. And so it would be hard for them to say I was engaging in hate speech, but I raise questions and I go up to the line and I tease people. But
you were a professor for decades. You're supposed to get people to think. And that's all you're doing by your posts. I see them every day. Good news, they're giving me the wrap here, but the good news is you were going to tell us you're back online. They gave you the smack. You threatened them saying, hey, I'll go public, which we just did. And the 14 days turned into only a couple days. So you got your LinkedIn account back, right?
I told them that they need to respond in 24 hours or I would go public. They missed it by 1 hour, so I went public.
And then they gave you the account back for now. Before we go, I am asking all guests today to give us their thoughts on the passing of Rush Limbaugh.
I mean, that's a major loss for the conservative movement, but he has had such an impact on many lives, including mine. And he will live on, not just in our memories, but the impact that he has encouraged us, to be voices. And so I feel sad for his family. I feel sad for us, but I know that he was a Christian believer, and we believe that we will see him again someday. And so my faith encourages me, and I'm sure it encourages his family and the people who loved him.
All righty. Thank you so much for those kind words, Dr. Carol Swain, and for joining the program. You take care, be safe, and try to stay out of LinkedIn jail. Take care.
Thank you.
Yep, straight ahead.